PowerPoint. If you need to present a PowerPoint or something like that, just go ahead. And please, the floor is yours. The floor is yours. Thank you for being here, Aala. You must turn on the microphone.
Yeah, I did not unmute myself. Yes. Thank you, Anna, for chairing the session, and also CESRAN for having me. I will just continue with those of you who were with Professor Sakwa's keynote speech, how the international system has been changing. And what I'm calling is also a bit following Amitav Acharya's the world of regions, and Eurasia is definitely one of these regions as leading. In last year's conference in Lisbon, I highlighted Turkey as the queen of Eurasia, how Turkey being both always been seen as a bridge between Europe and Asia, but even in 21st century, it has an opportunity both geostrategically, geopolitically, and geoculturally to be the queen of Eurasia. This is where I want to link it up with the UK leaving European Union. When I sent the abstract in March, obviously I was focusing on post-Brexit, so unprecedented times that now while I was writing the paper and doing the research, I'm located in Turkey now. I realized that there's also post-pandemic, post-COVID-19 changing dynamics and challenges and opportunities that will highlight. What I want to focus is, as I'm not using a PowerPoint, unlike Professor Sakwa, I want to highlight the 3 points. First, what I mean by smart partnership, and then how the UK-Turkey strategic partnership goes back even before Brexit, and what are the main actual objectives of the strategic partnership. And that's why how I use Joseph Nye's definition of smart power. What we are seeing is, since the Brexit referendum, the British government has okay, something is happening, but that's not my PowerPoint. I'll just continue talking.
Whoever is sharing the screen, I'm sorry, Aala. Gulsen, Seker, Aydin?
Yes. Yes.
You are sharing the screen?
Yeah.
No, please don't.
Okay. Okay, yeah,
No.
what I have been highlighting is since the UK's referendum to leave the European Union, British government has been searching alternative ways of bilateral relations with non-EU countries. And in the period of COVID-19, following the UK's hard Brexit, with a messy divorce with the Union, of course, could Turkey provide some of those opportunities or providing some challenges in global politics? It seems to me that Turkey is becoming one of the key non-Western states for London's future strategic partnership in global politics. And that goes back to Turkey-UK strategic partnership as a necessity that is based on the document 2019 strategic partnership document signed when Cameron was in power, hence it's even before the Brexit era. And it constitutes a roadmap laying out of a wide range of concrete areas of cooperation to strengthen the strategic partnership. Turkey has been identified as an important strategic partner, and that's what I base this Joseph Nye's definition of smart power on 3 objectives: trade, security, and cultural relations, or cultural diplomacy, if I continue with Professor Sakwa's emphasis on diplomacy. When we see, it has always been in terms of security, they are both NATO members and members of the global coalition against the Islamic State. And while the UK has traditionally been advocate for closer collaboration with Turkey, we have also seen an increasing volume of trade between Ankara and London. especially since the 2010 Strategic Partnership Agreement. I'll give you some facts. Bilateral trade grew over 65% between the two countries within the last decade. And also the UK was the third largest source of foreign direct investment and also tourist arrivals after Germany and Russia, with about 2 million tourists visiting Turkey yearly. When we see is especially highlighted by President Erdogan when he visited London in 2017, it was important that the UK was among the first to condemn the attempt coup in July 2016. And after a British minister visited Turkey soon afterwards, and they have emphasized that it's a kind of solidarity that will never be forgotten. And also President Erdogan highlighted that we are very ready to cooperate with the UK post-Brexit in every field. And I see the strategic partnership between Turkey and the UK as a necessity rather than a simple choice for the interests of the two countries. So strategic partnership as a necessity has become a theme repeated many times during the official visits, and even the most recently, the UK will need trade after Brexit, and rest assured Turkey is willing to help. So what we are seeing is really radical changes in bilateral relations. For instance, it hit bilateral relations were worth $18.8 billion in 2018, and Turkey's exports to the UK hit $11.1 billion. And there are more than 2,500 UK companies operating in Turkey, including BP, Shell, and Vodafone. And Turkey's main exports to the UK are vehicles, white goods, and clothes. And UK is Turkey's second biggest export market and the third largest foreign direct investment partner. And after Boris Johnson stated that London has recaptured its sovereignty since leaving the European Union on 31st January of 2002, things have gained a new momentum. And therefore, the main puzzle, the main question is how this momentum is going to continue, and whether Turkey can provide some of these opportunities since London has gained its sovereignty by leaving the European Union. It's interesting to note that although Turkey was never received the same level of global attention as one of the emerging powers, as again Professor Sakwa highlighted, such as China, India, as part of BRICS, and Russia, Turkey has always been recognized as a geostrategic ally of the West in between Europe and Asia, as I call more the Queen of Eurasia. What we are seeing is, by using Joseph Nye's definition of smart power, in the 19th century, more than half of the world's population and more than half of the world's product came from Asia. It was in the 20th century that while Asia still had more than half of the world's population, but only 20% of the world's product, things have changed in the 21st century. And 21st century world politics is going through two major power shifts that I want to highlight using Nye's definition. On the one hand, power transition is a shift of power among states from west to east. And on the other hand, power diffusion is a movement of power away from states and governments towards a more powerful non-governmental organizations. And I argue that there are two unprecedented events that accelerated the process of this power diffusion in international system. The first one is COVID-19 as a global pandemic, and the second one is the technological and cultural progress with increasing power of artificial intelligence, including global health as a typically driving force of post-COVID-19 era. And therefore, at the beginning of my research, as I focus on the power transition as identified by the rise of Asia, but following nice definition, I kind of use this should really be called the recovery of Asia and actually apply to the rise of Eurasia, within which Turkey is a key actor in post-pandemic politics. And by using a nice definition, let me give you what smart power is, that I thought that actually really reflects what is going on between Ankara and London bilateral relations. Smart power is neither hard nor soft power, rather the skillful combination of both. It means developing an integrated strategy, resource base, and toolkit to achieve objectives drawing on both hard and soft power. And the roots of smart power can be traced back to British-Turkish strategic partnership. Historically, I won't go into details, trade and diplomacy and war has shaped the relations between the Islamic Ottoman Empire and the British Empire, hence they have historic ties. And based on nice conceptualization, we can explore how Ankara and London have been developing this strategic partnership based on three key objectives of smart power. The first one is trade. Again, I won't go into details. I just highlighted that how since the strategic partnership document, the trade has increased in the last decade 65%. And Turkey's president wants to raise this to 20 billion within the next few years. And the UK doubled its export finance program for Turkey. And there are plans to increase cooperation on energy, manufacturing, and defense, as well as cultural, educational, and tourism, including health tourism, as highlighted by Turkey's Minister of Foreign Affairs in the context of COVID-19, to improve people-to-people relations, as I see these part of soft power. So these three key objectives, as I highlighted, the first one is trade, the second one is security as hard power, and the third one is as a soft power is for me cultural and educational, and that's why this health tourism and tourism is important. So first trade, and then the second security, as the British officials noted in the UK's partnership with Turkey in leading organizations like G22, the Council of Europe, and NATO is likely to become increasingly significant. That means working together across a broad range of issues to facilitate regional stability and security, promote people-to-people and cultural links, and growing bilateral trade and economic relations. And the third key objective of this smart power is culture for me and education, including language, health tourism, and higher education as part of soft power. Britain has already established strong economic ties, but also there are social ties, social historical links with Turkey in the areas of knowledge exchange, culture, and language skills exchange. Both countries are committed to building a future that will benefit from establishing new links between already existing institutions such as the British Council and Turkish Research Center, TÜBİTAK. And new opportunities for smart power will encourage strengthening previously established exchange programs between British and Turkish universities, as we will see more and more in increasing numbers in post-Brexit era. In short, there are clear signs that the post-Brexit Britain is seeking to expand its global partnership through smart power that will give London the ability to use both hard and soft power strategies. And the process of leaving the EU has allowed the British government to steadily strengthen its smart power partnership, potentially putting its geopolitics and security relations, hard power, with Turkey combined with its soft power, education, tourism, and cultural relations at the forefront of strategic partnership program. So just to conclude within the next 3 minutes, I'll skip the main part of paper, but if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer. I want to focus on the future of the UK-Turkey relations in post-Brexit and COVID-19 era. And I argue that that's the so-called strategic partnership poses a number of questions about UK's wider foreign policy objectives, while it's in the post-Brexit period until the end of this year. So I call it a bit like, although following an ethical foreign policy, from London's perspective, what we are seeing is a hypocritical foreign policy to test exactly this strategic partnership on 3 smart power objectives. And as the obstacles is also like in the form of 3 main obstacles of combination of hard and soft power, security issues and soft power issues that will test British and Turkish strategic partnership. The first issue is, again, I won't go into details, but as it's really, I am based in Antalya and it's very hot in the Mediterranean, as you know, in Lisbon. The East Mediterranean, the tensions has increased between Turkey and Greece, and the Cyprus issue is definitely one of them. And the soft power issue is human rights and democracy, that there's an element of U-turn from the British government with the contingent powerful Brexiteers, while they were using xenophobia and claims about 100 million Turks were about to join the European Union. And Brussels was accused of appeasing Ankara with the change of democratic development to reverse in Turkey. All of a sudden, they have ignored all these human rights and democracy issues as part of this smart strategic partnership to enhance hard power, security, and economic relations and trade. I think as a way of conclusion, I argue that Turkey has potential to be one of the key Euro-Asian states with its emerging smart power, intertwined with soft and hard power, through its strategic partnership with the UK in global politics. But at the same time, there are pressing issues that makes us to be aware more broadly how Turkey clashes with the democratic credentials of the European Union and individual member states, or issues in Syria and Libya and Greece in the Eastern Mediterranean. The more complicated it will be for London not to be drawn into the argument. Even the British government desires to separate economic strategic partnership from political issues. And as one of the Turkey's closest partners, London will find itself in a position, there are lots of positioning is going on between London and Ankara at the moment, will find itself in a position to warn Ankara about the risks of pursuing a more assertive foreign policy, encouraging it to engage maybe in diplomacy and dialogue with its neighbors to resolve differences and try to de-escalate tensions. Therefore, I think as my last sentence, in post-COVID-19, post-Brexit era, British-Turkey strategic partnership will also be tested by their smart power as a combination of resolving both hard power issues of security relations in the East Mediterranean and Cyprus question, as well as soft power issues of human rights and democracy. We are going through really unprecedented times. And I am, I think, more optimistic. Again, I'll continue with Richard Sakwas, that both sides, there are lots of positioning going on at the moment, that both Ankara and London historically has always adapted to the new emerging international system strategically. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aala. A wonderful paper, and it's good that you finished in a positive note. Optimism and adaptation are the key words for these challenging times, and obviously also in this post-Brexit, post-COVID scenario we are living. Without no further ado, I will give the floor to Gulsen, Seker, Aydin. Again, I'm sorry if I don't pronounce the name correctly, who will be talking to us about the renewal of dashed Turkish hopes in Central Asia. So Gulsen, I'm not sure.
Gulsen.
Gulsen. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Okay, so I understand you have a PowerPoint.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So feel free.
Unfortunately.
That's okay. So I would ask you to keep with the 15 minutes presentation also. Okay. And the floor is yours. Thank you so much for being here also.
Okay. Thank you, dear chair. First, pardon me for the inconvenience in Dr. Göz presentation. I was just trying to see whether I can upload my presentation. Sorry for that. Pardon me. Moving to my presentation subject, and now it's time to really upload it. This time is the right time. Okay. Are you able to see it?
Yes, we are. You can have a full screen. You can put the PowerPoint in a full screen mode.
Okay. I'll try to do it.
Like if it was presentation mode.
Ah.
Yeah.
This way.
And this way we only see the slides. Oh, okay, go ahead. Thank you.
Is it okay?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. Can you also see me?
Yes.
Okay. Let's start then. I'm Gulsen Aydin. I lecture at International Relations Department of Ataturk University. It's great to be here to participate into the conference, albeit at a virtual platform this time. This is my second time in these conferences. I first start with expressing my gratitude to the conference organizers. It is always a good conference. Moving to my presentation subject, I will address the renewal of dashed Turkish hopes in Central Asia. As the main outline of my presentation, I will focus on Turkish foreign policy towards Central Asia. My presentation aims to differentiate between the Turkish foreign policy in early 1990s and afterwards. The presentation also evaluates the chances for new pragmatic Turkish Central Asian policy. To start with early 1990s, this was the time of euphoria. Why this is the case? Emergence of four Turkic states, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan, in Central Asia created a euphoria in Turkey because Turkey has linguistic, religious, and cultural ties with these newly independent Central Asian republics. People came to emphasize these ties regularly. The then Turkish Prime Minister Demirel drew attention to the Turkic world extending from the Adriatic Sea to the Chinese Wall. This was illustrative of the enthusiasm at the height of state. But very soon problems emerged because these states entered into a four-dimensional period of change comprising nation building, state building, democratization, and transition to free market economy after the collapse of the Soviet Union. In West and in Turkey, many entertained the hope that newly independent states of Central Asia would follow Turkish model would follow Turkish model of democratic and secular state with a free market economy. The United States lent its support behind the Turkish model vis-a-vis the model of Islamic Republic of Iran. Turkey's geographic position, providing the central connection in the proposed East-West energy corridor for the export of Caspian oil resources, also boosted the strategic importance of Turkey. In fact, this was great news for Turkey because after the disintegration of the Soviet Union, the Turkish policymakers was of the idea that the collapse of the Soviet Union and the end of the Cold War weakened Turkey's strategic value for the US. Moreover, at that time, Turkey's full membership application to the EU had been rejected. So Turkey was in search for new venues for its foreign policy. The organization of Black Sea Economic Cooperation and the Economic Cooperation Organization emerged as new foreign policy orientations for Turkey. As early as March 1991, the then Turkish President Özal included Kazakhstan in his Soviet travel program. This was reciprocated by his Kazakh counterparts visit to Turkey in September 1991, and those of his Uzbek, Turkmen, Kyrgyz counterparts in December 1991. Turkey was the first state to recognize the independence of Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan. Ankara also led the efforts to establish the Black Sea Economic Cooperation Council in 1991. This was a new organization to include former Soviet states and former East Bloc member states. Due to the support provided by the West and counting on its ethnic, religious, and cultural ties with the region, Turkey in time came up with highly ambitious schemes, such as establishing a union of Turkic states. In 1992, Demirel advised the Central Asian states to exit the rubble zone and adopt the Latin alphabet. All these were perceived as threats to Russian interest and influence in the region. Coming to the results of this euphoric period, Turkey managed to establish its presence in Turkic republics and economic and cultural interactions between Turkey and Turkic republics have increased to an important degree. But earlier expectations that Turkey would become Central Asian countries' strongest political and economic actor, and it would be followed as a model, were not realized. Turkey saw its influence in the region declined severely once Russia reasserted its position in the region within the framework of its near abroad doctrine. Turkey also had hardship in the face of the rivalry of other powerful actors vying for influence in the region, such as China, European Union, Iran. There were also factors limiting Turkey's influence. Turkey's limited economic resources at that time, the absence of common borders with the newly independent states, recurrent economic crisis in 1990s and 2001 also acted as a hurdle. The reluctance of the leaders of Turkic republics to replace Russian Big Brother with Turkish Big Brother, the resistance of Central Asian states to pan-Turkic ideas, and their post-Soviet authoritarian trajectories instead of democracy also acted as a hurdle. As the last hurdle, Central Asian leaders' cautious policies not to antagonize Russia, these all proved to be some other factors besides international rivalry, limiting Turkey's influence. Then Turkey shifted to a more pragmatic policy against the background of these difficulties. This happened in the mid-1990s. Ankara focused on strengthening bilateral ties, intensifying cooperation and also intensifying cooperation through international organizations, including Turkic Council, Türkeneşi, the International Organization of Turkic Culture, Turksoy, utilizing soft power tools like student and staff exchange programs. This includes Orhun and Maup. I participated into them. I've been to Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan to lecture within the framework of Orhun program. And we have many students coming from Central Asia within the framework of Orhun program at Ataturk University in Erzurum, in east of Turkey. This year also, before the pandemic, we also started a new program, Central Asian University Association Union program. This is also an exchange program. Turkey also tried to use scholarships and rely on joint universities such as Manas, Turkish, Kyrgyz, and Ahmet Yesevi, Turkish Kazakh universities, and also Turkish television programs. It also provided development aid to Central Asian states via institutions like the Turkish Cooperation and Development Agency, TİKA. It also focused on increasing bilateral trade volumes and Turkish companies' involvement in the region. In the international arena, as far as rivalry is concerned, Turkey's new pragmatic policy also centered on the Russian-Turkish rapprochement, rather than attempting to fill the vacuum created by Soviet collapse and counteract against Russian influence. Ankara opted for cooperating with Russia. In 2001, Turkey and Russia signed Cooperation Action Plan in Eurasia. Turkey tried not to antagonize Russia in Central Asia, as it realized that such an attitude would harm its interest in the region. Central Asian states felt relieved thanks to this new attitude of Ankara. Turkey also preferred to cooperate with China in Central Asia by supporting Beijing's Belt and Road Initiative, One Belt, One Road. Sometimes it is called One Belt, One Road project. This is the New Silk Road, road and sea Silk Road, land and sea Silk Road. Turkey suggested a new Silk Road initiative named the Middle Corridor. Middle Corridor includes Baku-Tiflis-Kars railway line. This is the centerpiece of Middle Corridor. The Middle Corridor will connect China and Europe via Central Asia and Turkey. Therefore, it is important. It is critical that Turkey tended to cooperate with Russia by offering the Middle Corridor. Let's see the results. The volume of trade among Turkey and Central Asian republics has increased. Here you see the numbers. There's a significant rise, as you see. The tensions in relation between Turkey and Uzbekistan during the Kerimov rule decreased in Mirziyoyev's new Uzbek president's period. The cooperation in the field of culture and education gained momentum, and this boosted Turkey's soft power in the region. Turkey Council has contributed to improving cooperation in various fields. For example, in its last summit, the focus was the fight against the coronavirus. Central Asia has also recently received more attention within the framework of Asia New initiative of Turkish Ministry of Foreign Affairs. This is a new development. To conclude, these recent successes are really encouraging, but there are still hurdles ahead. Turkey may face difficulties in its relations with Central Asian countries if its relations with Russia become problematic. This is a threat. The problems in Syria and Turkish economy can also distract resources from Turkey's Central Asia foreign policy objectives. Another problem is the Fethullahist terror organization, which we call FETÖ in Turkish. It is a thorny issue, especially this is illustrated by the problems in Turkish-Kyrgyz relations. Turkey demands extradition of FETÖ members, closing down of FETÖ-related schools. Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan accepts Turkish demands to a large extent. Kyrgyzstan resists. There are some good developments in this respect, but there are still some remaining problems. That's all that I want to say. Thank you very much for listening to me. I will be here to answer the questions at the end.
Wait,
Okay.
sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Gulsen.
Can I ask a question, please?
I would leave the questions for the end of the panel, if you don't mind.
All right, okay.
So that we don't lose the timing for all the speakers to have time to speak. Thank you so much, Gulsen. I will now ask you to, yeah, that's right. So let's, without no further ado, give the floor to Ramzi Bemdenka. I'm really sorry for this. Who will be speaking about Algeria and Russia relations, economic capacities, and cooperation probabilities. So I don't see the speaker. Are you there, Ramzi? Oh, okay. Oh, so I will give you the floor. Ask you again to put the presentation mode on so that we only see the slides.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
Can you see the slide now?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you so much. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Anna, and hello, everyone. I'm not sure if I can say good morning or good afternoon or good evening for everyone. It's already 7 p.m. here. So my topic is Algeria and Russia relations, economic capacities, and the cooperation probabilities. The topic is a little bit different from, I mean, the approach and the case is different from what my colleagues are talking concerning the cooperation and strategic partnership like Dr. Aala. I will start, so this is the organization of the presentation. I will start with asking the questions. Why is it necessary for Algeria and Russia to cooperate? What's the importance of cooperation between both countries at the first place? The second one, what is the potential of cooperation in the light of trans-regionalism? And then the third one, the third question that we want to answer it, what are the probabilities of this cooperation? The probabilities of this cooperation means what's the starting point for both countries to establish cooperation. We need a justification to justify the topic. I prefer general justification and specific justification. Generally speaking, interdependence became a reality in the world in the field of international relations in terms of discussions or in reality. So when we say interdependence means we are talking about a world of blocks, we are talking about a world of several organizations, we are talking about FTAs, we are talking about agreements, bilateral or between the blocks. So it became a reality and therefore can force countries to move toward cooperation. The second point, problems cannot be tackled by any individual nation states, and this is very obvious. And the third one, new regionalism, highlighting especially new regionalism in the end of 80s and the beginning of 90s, new regionalism highlighting new opportunities for many countries. Why? Because before that, we used to discuss cooperation and regionalism among similar countries in terms of power and in terms of power and in terms of strategy and in terms of security. However, after that, during 90s, the things change and we are talking more now about economy, we are talking more about technology transfer, and also we are talking about South-South cooperation more than before. In terms of specific justification, the history of political, strategic, and sorry, can you unmute your mic, please?
Yes, I would like to ask all the people attending that should turn off your microphones, please. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So the history of political, strategic, and military cooperation between Algeria and Russia go back to 1962, means the independence of Algeria, or even before that, during the 50s. But from 1962 to 1985, Algeria spent about 11 billion in armament, and all is from Russia. And for your information, this 11 billion means 100% of armament of Algeria is from Soviet Union at that time. The second point, the armament and the spending of Algeria on armaments came with the doctrine and came with the ideology as well. So Algeria during 60s, 70s, and till the 80s adopted the communist doctrine in terms of economy, politics, and strategic as well. The second point is alternative partnership. When Russia is suffering from different partnerships like India-Russia partnership, which is negative in the last few years. Also the China-Russia partnership, which is a negative side in terms of economy in the last few years. The relation between Russia and Europe, sanctions from European Union. Also Algeria, the same thing, is suffering from partnership with Europe, different levels, different powers. So Algeria also is suffering from this part. So this cooperation between Russia and Algeria can be an alternative partnership. The last point in terms of justification, the potential why for economic transition, and this is the important point that we are going to talk about it. After that, I mean the transition from centralized economy to liberalized economy or trade liberalization. So trans-regional functions, what are the functions of trans-regional? Why do countries cooperate? There are a lot of functions actually, but here we choose to talk about the development, of course, as a target, and balancing. We talk a little bit about it when we talk about the relation between Algeria, the European Union, and Russia and the European Union, for instance. So the balancing means to start from the same level between Algeria and Russia and then move forward to cooperation and partnership with Europe as a second level. And then the third one is agenda setting. And nowadays things are changing faster, especially after the COVID-19. So all the countries in the world are trying to settle a new agenda for new era for the future. So there is another function or objective of this cooperation, and I think this is the main one and the major one, which is the economic transition. Both countries are suffering in this way to make the economic transition. They found it very difficult to transit from centralized economy to liberalization, both Algeria and Russia. The way of transition from a planned and pre-planned economy where everything belonged to the state to an open market and economic liberalization look the same in both countries, as they still struggling in this matter. How I can look that, we can see through the export and the products. If we see Algeria and Russia, they have the same products to export, which is mainly the resources, what we call it mineral resources. Also in terms of centralized government, it's very centralized till the point that we cannot imagine sometimes that we are not dealing with the economy, we are not dealing with the politics when everything is mainly centralized. In fact, this morning we were talking about we were talking about the universities, and I gave them an example about Algeria. Before 2 years, after the pressure from outside and inside, the government tried to open universities, means to make a private universities, and the government said, okay, now we open the private universities, but guess what? The stakeholder, 60% is the brother of the president, and the other 40% is the friends of the brother of the president, and they call it a private university. So for them, if there is no direct control of the authorities. They consider it as private well when the meaning is not done. So economic capacities lead to cooperation probabilities and then the transition. So both countries need to focus on transition and the way of transition. Therefore, cooperation between both countries can lead to realize this target and this objective. Talking about economic capacities means we are talking about similarities. Both countries are the same in terms of territory, water reserves, for example, natural resources and agricultural asset. Algeria, for instance, is the 9th country in terms of the territory and the first country in Africa. Russia is the first in the world. Water reserves, as you can see, Algeria is 4 billion cubic meters, when Russia has 20% of fresh water of the world. Natural resources, Algeria is number 6 in gas, Russia number 1, oil 13, 2. So they do have the capacities in terms of economy and resources, but how they can use it, this is the way that we are going to talk about it in terms of cooperation probabilities. So in cooperation probabilities, they need 3 steps. The first one is exploitation of resources. That's what they need at the first step. The second one, strategic partnership, and then market economy, when they can realize the transition to trade liberalization. So talking about exploitation of resources, they need first the information and experts movement. You know, the movement between the Algerian experts and Russian experts is mainly for the military reason. It's not for economic, it's not for cultural or other matters, it's mainly for military. They need to change this. They need to change this behavior. They need more cooperation in terms of information in economy and exchanging experts, especially in, for example, the farmers, the economic experts, the energy experts. The second one is a project and planning. Of course, they need to work on projects and advanced projects in terms of agriculture, in terms of energy, and other matters as well. And then it can be ended with a direct investment, but in economy, not in military matters and strategic matters. The second point is strategic partnership. In strategic partnership, the first thing they need is bilateral agenda. They need agenda, because if the expert can see the agenda, of course, we will see also the time frame. We need the specific details, talking about the way of cooperation, the starting point, the end point. All of that need to be seen when we talk about strategic partnership. Actually, Algeria and Russia had this strategic partnership since 2006, almost 15 years. They met more than 12 times, but always again, they are talking about strategic, what we call it, strategic affairs and the military affairs, not economic affairs. So they need to move toward economy, and we need to see the bilateral agenda first. The second one is coordination of efforts and actions. Again, between organization, they can create organization, institutions. And the third one, which is explore new areas of cooperation, what we call it, the spillover of cooperation from military to economic to cultural to other matters, rather than only what we see today is the stagnation on military cooperation. The market economy, before realizing the market economy, both countries need unilateral reform. They need the reform in terms of laws, in terms of regulations, and that's what we call it. Unilateral reform means to be prepared for cooperation and to be open for this cooperation. The second one is private transactions, not government transactions. We still see the government transaction between the both countries and not private transactions. And then the last one, agreements, even the FTAs, they still not realizing the FTAs or agreements to realize the market economy, or what we call it the free trade agreements. In conclusion, I would like to say that cooperation cannot be separated from the economic capacities. When two countries have some similarities in terms of economic capacities, they can use it for cooperation. Of course, on the way of exploiting resources, they need to see the first thing, how they can exploit in the resources, their resources first, and then move into another point and move into another aspects. Bilateral relationship between Algeria and Russia can be a starting point for real transition in both countries. Both countries are looking for transition. They found it very difficult to do that separately, so they can cooperate in order to realize the transition in both countries. Thank you from my part, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Ramzi, for keeping strictly to the timing of the 15 minutes. That's great. It's great to have this time within the timing, within the schedule we have. So again, with no further ado, and thanking you also for being here, Brindusa, Nicoleta, Pincu. I'm sorry, from
Brindusa, yes.
Brindusa, okay. Thank you also for being here. You will talk to us. Yeah, you will talk to us about the effectiveness of the regional economic integration process and assessment of the Commonwealth of Independent States model. So again, with no further ado, I'll give you the floor. Thank you for being here and ask you for keeping with the 15 minutes timing, please. Okay, thank you so much.
I shall do my best.
Okay.
Okay, let me see the presentation. So please confirm when you are seeing my screen.
Okay, we do see it. I would ask you also, like did the other participants, to put on the presentation mode so that we only see the, okay, that's perfect. For me, it's perfect.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So good day to you all. Today I'm going to be talking about the topic of the Commonwealth of Independent States. I'm going to give you the gist of it, this regional integration economic model. And without further ado, let's start. So I would like to start by highlighting the main forms of regional integration processes in the post-Soviet era. Afterwards, I will be saying a few words about the Commonwealth of Independent States and pointing a few aspects of the free trade area of the Commonwealth of Independent States. And then we shall see some graphs highlighting the GDP, the foreign direct investments, the CPI, the trade balance, and Human Development Index for these countries. And towards the end, we will draw some conclusions. So as you can see on this pictogram, the main forms of regional integration processes in the post-Soviet space are the Commonwealth of Independent States, the Collective Security Treaty Organization. We have here the Eurasian Economic Union, the latest integration process, which is led by Russia, the free trade area of the Commonwealth of Independent States, and some organizations that are trying not to get so much influence from Russia, mainly GUAM, the Organization for Development and Democracy and Economic Development, the Baltic Assembly, and the Community for Democracy and Rights of Nations. The Commonwealth of Independent States has come into being on December 8th, 1991, almost immediately after the dissolution of the Soviet Union, and the founding members were Russia, Belarus, and Ukraine. Shortly after, the Alma-Ata Protocol was signed, and other former Soviet republics has adhered to this new form of strengthening the cooperation on an economic and political level. The latest development of this organization came in 2011, where when a new free trade area agreement was signed as a counterbalance to the influence of the European Union through the Eastern Partnership and European Neighborhood Policy in the area. The free trade area comprising the Commonwealth of Independent States is governed by the WTO regulations, and its main signatories are Armenia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Moldova, Russia, Ukraine, and Uzbekistan. It focuses on several principles like the rules of origins, the freedom of transit, commitment on technical barrier to trade to eliminate them. But unfortunately, it does not include the specific institutional provisions nor commitments on the legislative harmonization on trade-related reforms. Also, the members of the Eurasian Economic Union received other kinds of treatment. Although it is focused on the liberalization of the transit for goods, it has no coverage regarding the services. As it comes to the macroeconomic indicators, as you can see here on the graph, in terms of the gross domestic product, when we're talking about the growth rate, we can observe that the tendencies are almost the same for every country, with a small exception for Azerbaijan. You can see it here highlighted in this shade of pink. This is happening because Azerbaijan is trying to distance itself from a Russia-led economic policy, and it tries to form its own way in this this new economic era of trade agreements. So it does not want to anger Russia, so to speak, but it doesn't want to form a very close relationship to the European Union. Although Azerbaijan, for example, is part of the Eastern Partnership, a policy led by the EU towards the Eastern states, it hasn't signed an agreement as close as, for example, Moldova, Ukraine, or Georgia had signed. Of course, I'm talking about the deep and comprehensive free trade area. We don't have this with Azerbaijan. Regarding the consumer prices index, as you can see on the graph here, we don't have such large discrepancies between the states that are forming the Commonwealth of Independent States. We observed here, starting with 1993, decrease, and afterwards, starting with 2000-2001, a stabilization of the consumer prices index. That means that the states are trying to maintain a low level of prices, prices that are paid for by the consumers for their daily goods. In terms of the FDIs, we can see that the net inflows starting from 1992 to 2019 are not as expected, because some of the provisions from the Charter of the Commonwealth of Independent States stated that they want to boost the foreign direct investments in terms of net inflows and net outflows. So they started this new form of cooperation called the New Free Trade Area in 2011 to boost this foreign direct investment. But as you can see, before the crisis from 2008, the tendencies for almost all the states were towards an ascendant path. So, and you can see here again Azerbaijan, who has its own path. But after the signing in 2011 of this new agreement of the free trade area, we can see that the states that comprise the Commonwealth of Independent States didn't necessarily boost their net inflow of the foreign direct investments. So at least on this level, this new trade agreement was not so successful. And we can see it again here when we are comparing the net outflows. So again, the only one The only state that we can see clear a distance, a barrier if you want, between it and the other countries is again Azerbaijan. For the trade balance, I have selected a few states from the Commonwealth of Independent States. Some of them have ratified the charter and some of them did not, but nonetheless, they are still part of this agreement. So one of the central points was to boost the trade between the states and to discourage the states to form bilateral relations. Well, the reality is that the states, the parties of the Commonwealth of Independent States and also this new free trade agreement still operate on a bilateral basis. And we can see here, for example, that starting with, for Armenia, starting with 2011, the trade between Armenia and Europe and Central Asia has decreased if we compared the same data from the graph from the period before. Of course, this is due also due to economic challenges that each state has faced on its own, and together as a consequence of having its economy linked with the other states. And from 2017, we can observe a small tendency in the ascending direction. Here, for example, as you can see, the line highlighting the Europe and Central Asia as the import partners is not so so different. So the discrepancies are not so so stark in opposed to the export graph. For Azerbaijan, in terms of export partners, starting with 2011, we can also see a decrease here. But the tendency started to ascend towards 2017, and afterwards, since 2017 onwards, we can see a tendency of decreasing. That is a sign that Azerbaijan is focusing mainly on other directions to seek more trade partners. On the import, I think you can see here. Oh, I'm sorry. My fingers have a mind of their own, apparently. Yeah, got it back in charge. For Azerbaijan, the tendency is a bit similar with import. Regarding Belarus, Belarus is closely linked with Russia. They even have a strong economic union dating back from 1993. And their economies are closely linked, and thus the Belarusian economy receives a very, very high capital injections from Russia in order to stabilize their economy. So signing this free trade agreement in the 2011 did not have so stark of an impact towards the export and import partners. For Moldova, Moldova is a peculiar case because on the one side, it has really close economic ties with Russia and with Ukraine, and this is due to their shared past for over 200 years onwards. So this country also receives a lot of support from Russia via various channels. One of them is the workers from Moldova, which work in the Russian Federation and send back home large quantities, large amounts of capital that is infused automatically in the local economy. So signing this agreement in 2011 did not have that much impact on the Moldovan economy, as well as we can see this if we are analyzing the graphs for the import partners. So mainly Moldova follows the market tendency, so to speak. So this new trade agreement doesn't have the impact, the power to boost or to decrease the amount of international trade that is happening between the states located in Europe and Central Asia. Ukraine was one of the founding members actually of the Commonwealth of Independent States, but to its various disagreements on Russia on an international levels that many of you I'm sure are aware of, starting with the Orange Revolution from the early 2000s, then the gas trades, the impact of the crisis, and also the newest developments due to Crimea situation. Ukraine started to come closer, so to speak, to the EU, to form new agreements and to develop new policies and programs in order to signal to the international community that it is indeed an European country which wishes to tie closer to the EU. So although Ukraine currently is not a member of the Commonwealth of Independent States and did not ratify the charter back in 1993, today it participates in this free trade area agreement with a lot of limitations and with a lot of derogations. Signing this agreement didn't have necessarily the impact of boosting the trade between Ukraine and the other states of Commonwealth of Independent States, mainly because these trade relations happen on a bilateral basis, and Ukraine is still reluctant to conclude an agreement with the states of the Commonwealth of Independent States as a whole. In regarding of the Human Development Index evolution, you can see here on the graph that for all the countries which are part of and are linked with the Commonwealth of Independent States, we have a tendency towards an ascending curve. That means that we from 1990 till 2018-2019, we can observe that the welfare of the population has increased over the years. So they are more developed. Their needs are met more frequently and better, as in regards to the early 1990s when the Soviet Union dissolved, collapsed. Here you can see another representation of the Human Development Index evolution from the 90s to the 2008. And here you can see the ranking as of 2018. The data is not available for 2019 yet. It's a top of the most developed countries calculated by the Human Development Index. And as you can see, the sole country which has a slightly better position than the others is the Russian Federation on the 49th place, followed by Belarus. As a conclusion of this, the Commonwealth of Independent States is mainly an organization led by Russia, and Russia still dictates the main trade policies. We have a lack of a common framework. Many countries have a lot of derogation. There's a lot of exception, and they cannot reach to an agreement that is satisfactory for the majority of them. We have a weak to a quasi non-existent institutionalization. So if you take this organization, the Commonwealth of Independent States, with its new FTA agreement, and you compare it, for example, to the European Union, you can see there's a huge difference, mainly in the case of institutionalization. We don't have a commission, we don't have a parliament, we don't have a council to give us the direction, or to give them the direction they need to follow, and to be able to force them, if you will, to follow rules and international regulations. True, they are guided by the WTO rules, but this is only at a declaratory level. In practice, there are a lot of bilateral agreements and way too many exceptions. Also, the Charter and the FTA are not ratified, as I said earlier, by all post-Soviet countries, although some of them still participate actively, at least to the Free Trade Area Agreement. And as a particularity, this agreement, participating to this free trade agreement does not exclude trade relations and participations to other foreign trade agreements. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Brindusa, for keeping with the time and for presenting your paper here. We have been receiving some questions in the chat, and the right to your screen if you have the chat option open. I will try to have time to put these questions directly to the speakers so that we have some discussion. But in case that we don't have that time, I would ask the speakers to look at them and try to later on reply to them. I would also like to ask you if you could signal if you wish to pose a question to any of the speakers in the Q&A part. Please write something in the chat area so that I know that you want to speak. It's easier, or wave your hand. I think there is the possibility of in the bottom of the screen, if you say reactions, you can wave your hand or just signal something so that I know that you wish to pose a question to our speakers. So again, with no further ado, let's move on. We now have Mohamed Ashiru and Özgür Tufekci. Sorry again. They will be talking to us and presenting a paper on hydropolitics of the River Nile, Egypt, Sudan, and Ethiopia in contention. You are here. Okay, so Mohamed, you're here. You cannot turn on your microphone. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So
the floor is yours. Thank you for being here.
All right. Thank you
and
very much.
I ask you to keep 15 minutes presentation. Thank you.
All right.
Do you want to put
hi
just
to
on
everyone.
presentation mode?
Let me just like this.
And I will just ask Brindusa, can you turn off your microphone?
Oh, yes, sorry.
Okay, and I'll turn off mine too. Okay, thank you so much.
All right, so hi to everyone. It's just a paper in construction, actually. We just trying to put together some points to bring together a very good paper for publication. So the topic of the paper is hydropolitics of River Nile, Egypt, Sudan, and Ethiopia in contention. And that is to say, hydropolitics in the Horn of Africa is becoming very serious nowadays, and we are going to talk about it. And the background of the study is that we all know how River Nile is very important in the region, and River Nile is unarguably the largest international river system in the world, and it is composed of two phases, that's the White Nile and the Blue Nile. And we all know that Egypt, that is at the helm of affairs, is contributing less to the body of the river. And where Egypt is where we have the White Nile coming from, and where the other riparian states contribute 86%. And at the side of that, we have Ethiopia that contribute almost 86% of the river. And so many people depend on this river for so many things, and including for domestic purposes. So this is it, and this is how the map looks like, and we can find where Egypt is, and this is Ethiopia, this is Sudan, and the nexus is just among Egypt, Ethiopia, and Sudan, like you can see. All right, so the Nile is the mainstay and the basis of existence of Egypt. That is why renowned Greek historian Herodotus wrote, Egypt is the gift of the Nile. And besides that, we all know in our history classes in our high schools that Egypt is Nile and Nile is Egypt. We've been told that, and that is how crucial the river has been to the economic and political development of Egypt. So what is the problem? And we all know that even before 1929, there was a treaty, but the 1921-91 seems to be a bit more important. And we come to somewhere around 1959, and all those treaties saw Egypt taking much advantage over any other country. And Egypt has always boasted of how it is going to fight with its own blood when the Nile is touched, and we all know why. Because without River Nile, Egypt is nothing. So a country that is threatened because of lack of water is capable of anything, and Egypt has always threatened something like that. So in all those agreements, like you can see in the slides, there is nowhere other countries were given that kind of benefits. Ethiopia, for instance, has always tried to do something on the river, that is on the part of the Blue Nile, but they were stopped, they were blockaded by activities of Egypt, either directly or indirectly. And here comes in 2011, when Ethiopia started to build its own, what we call the Great Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. And this dam is going to be a game changer to the Ethiopian economy, and it's going to take so many people from poverty. And Ethiopia is giving it all in all to make sure this thing is actualized. So Ethiopia started this when the Arab Spring started, knowing very well that if it had started earlier, if it had notified these countries like Egypt wouldn't agree. So it started when Egypt was unsettled, or when the Arab world was unsettled. So before they could realize, Ethiopia had already started it, and Egypt started agitating ever since, and that becomes the problem. So, sorry, let me just.
Okay.
All right. So,
okay.
yeah. So what we have now is that the dam is almost done, and Ethiopia has started filling it. And we all read from the news, we hear from other sources how Egypt is doing everything to stop it. And we all know what has happened in early 90s when Ethiopia tried to build a dam. That was the Alel 2 dam, and how Egypt was able to stop it. We also know that in history, there was a time Sudan and Egypt planned to form a military base in Sudan so that they would go and break any activities that Ethiopia would try to do on the Nile, because it would stop Egypt from getting a rightful supply of the river. So this is the aim of our research. The aim is that this paper shall trace the history of the hydropolis of the Nile. That is very important to be able to get a clear picture of what is really happening and what has happened previously. And it shall also look at the Nile conflict and cooperation vis-a-vis several agreements. So everything that has to do with Nile had to do with several agreements that had passed, and some of them, you have the NBI, for instance, that is still running, and how other nations, for instance, currently Eritrea is trying to get involved in this. And it wants to be part of the riparian states that is part of the agreement, and it will form the 10th nation that will join the agreement. And we also look at the pros and cons of the contraction of the GERD to the political and economic development of the region. So the GERD is now in question. It is now bringing all the fracas that we are reading in the news, and how it is going to shape the regional politics, and it is already doing that. We all saw what America did recently when it stopped Ethiopia, or when it announced it was not going to give Ethiopia some amount of aid, owing to the fact that Ethiopia wouldn't stop filling the dam against the order of US and other stakeholders. So it should also look to you should also seek to look at the international ramification and the spillover effect of the conflict on neighboring and friend countries. So we all know this kind of ally system and the friends of nations, and how it is going to change the policies of the region when an agreement is not reached. And very important here, it's the fact that everyone is trying to bring the kind of cooperation that the river can bring instead of conflict, but issues keep on escalating, and we are seeing some tendencies of violence in the near future. No one wishes that violence are used, but then even if violence are not used, we all saw how it's going to impact on trade and other political activities in the region and even beyond. So our aim is to just look into all those things and see how, in case of any disagreement, how things are going to span in the region. So the theoretical framework, and so in theory, we would go to look at how Egypt stands in the region as the power. We all know this issue of balance of power, and how the rising nation would be stopped when the regional power is feeling it is going to be a problem. So we all see that if this dam is done, of course, Ethiopia is going to be a power to reckon with in the region. So that one, of course, wouldn't be a very good news for the Egyptian power, and it is going to bring a problem. So Egypt is doing all it can to stop everything that will just take it from its position as a regional power. So, and this explains, and the classical realisms explain this kind of phenomenon. Because of lack of time, I wouldn't want to delve much into the theoretical framework. So let's go to the next slide. Now, so the research questions. And the first question we ask, or the research is going to answer, is that will the rising ceaseless tension among Egypt, Sudan, and Ethiopia culminate to violent conflict? And so, against a hypothesis that I've not included in this slide, is that there is that kind of tendency that this tension is going to be violent, because Ethiopia is relentless in its efforts to fill the dam, and Egypt is also relentless on its position that anything that is going to happen to the Nile and would affect their supply of the Nile River would cost them everything, including a military intervention. So what are the consequences of the Ethiopian dam on the relationship of neighboring states? So we're going to answer that. This is going to mar the relationship. We know the position of Sudan. In this case, Sudan has not been mentioned much because Sudan stands between the two. Sudan stands to benefit from the activities of Egypt, Ethiopia, because it's going to get free or cheap electricity. And though it is worried because it's had a very good relationship all this while with Egypt. So it's going to, Egypt even currently, Sudan had currently said that it's against the fact that Ethiopia is filling the dam against the agreement. So that essentially the region have spillover effect on political relations of other concerned states. Of course it has. Any other state that joins and takes sides is going to be a kind of an ally. We already mentioned the position of the US and how it is trying to stop some kind of aid to the Ethiopian state. So is cooperation still viable in the wake of states' rejection of agreements? And that is quite bleak, that we will have a cooperation very soon. I mean, even if we have a cooperation in phenomenon, we all don't know what will really happen, but it is quite clear that a total cooperation is going to be very difficult, because Egypt Egypt's supply is being threatened, and Ethiopia is not listening to any other agreement. It is like we just mentioned in the realist theoretical framework that it is the country said it is not bound by any treaty to do things against their own benefit. So, and the Ethiopian state is following its benefit, even if it would just bring a kind of destabilization in the region. All right, so methodology. So what are we going to use to get our results? So we know very well that this kind of research would employ the use of literature review, including legal documents and critical analysis. So we'll do some kind of description, we'll also do some kind of speculation and projection in it. And where necessary, authorities or things that main people, the game players of the subject matter have said or have analyzed, we're also going to take it in consideration to form what we would call our paper. So after that, what would this contribute? What would this research contribute? What is different from what has been done already? So this would form as my conclusion. So this paper will provide a much needed analysis of how the Nile Nexus has changed hydropolitics discourse in international relations. So we know that so many things have happened in Africa. We all know how the Côte d'Ivoire, the Ivorian state and the Ghanaian state went to the international courts and they fought for a while over the Cape Tree Point. And when Ivory Coast claimed that the part of the sea that the mineral has been found should also be a kind of their share, they went to international court and no violence happened and Ghana won the case. So we also that problems have been solved regarding this river and sea problems, hydropolitics in Africa. But this is different. And the approach these people have been given to this is that cooperation is viable when all we know from the beginning has been a kind of treaty agreement and everything, and nothing happens and things keep on escalating. So we are going to go the other ways. Just go and predict that this is going to be a kind of there's going to be a kind of possibility of war. Or so a very, very serious thing when things do not change. So this would be the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for listening.
Okay,
Once
thank you.
Views and suggesting criticisms, I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mohammed. And thank you again also for keeping up with the time. I'm very happy you are making my job very easy. So this is good. With no further ado, and so that we have some time for Q&A, I will give the floor to Sonia. Sonia Senica from the Portuguese Institute of International Relations. She'll be talking to us on has Putin's Russia become predictable? So let's move a little bit eastwards. And Sonia, thank you so much for being there. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay. I'm trying to share. Thank you so much. Everybody, perfect. They can see it, the PPT presentation? Yes. Is it okay? Yes. Thank you. So I would like to start saying thank you to the organization committee for this wonderful event and for this opportunity. Of course, also to the chair, Professor Monica Fonseca, and all the panelists and all the presents here. Thank you so much. The communication that I bring to you today is to propose a reflection about the latest trends of Russian policy, having as a starting point the predictability of Russia nowadays, and why the tension in the relationship, especially with the West, seems so difficult to overcome. Having in mind Slobodichkov formulation of 2014, building a hegemonic order Russia's way, order, stability and predictability in the post-Soviet space, I propose to focus on the predictability concept on the three levels of analysis: domestic, meaning political leadership, society, and normative framework, regional, also power projection, interests and relations with close neighbors, and international, again, power projection, and especially relations with the West and China. With a brief also overview of the major Russian policy trends since 2000 and recent presentation of Macron's doctrine is a possibility of approach of a European approach. So according to Slobodichkov formulation, after the collapse of the Soviet Union and the 19th decade of some crossroads, Russia intended to develop a security architecture that provides order, stability, and predictability in the post-Soviet state by establishing a normative system by bilateral and multilateral treaties, creating the rules of the order according to its focus and concern. This not only creates a stronger network for managing and organizing political behavior, but challenges also global order by developing a new regional order. My proposal for this reflection, which is still obviously in progress, focus only on the predictability part, is to try to infer of all these three levels of analysis used, domestic one, regional, and international, that there are some patterns that we can sustain, where we can sustain this predictability. In the domestic level, we have a centralized and vertical power of Russian leadership with a weak political opposition and a path moving towards a more conservative and religious society, especially since the recent constitutional reform package, and in the years we are celebrating the 20 years in power of President Putin. In the regional level, we have the permanent projection of an image of a regional power with some vital interests claiming those in the near abroad and always contesting the Western influence, namely NATO's and EU enlargements, and also celebrating strategic partnerships with close neighbors and assertive position towards pro-European countries. And we also have now in the international level, Russia advocating a multipolar international world, refuting a liberal order and defending, of course, importance of multilateralism, as we talked here today in the morning, especially highlighting the power and importance of the UN. Due especially to, of course, its importance and seat occupied in the Security Council. Presenting also some solutions for major conflicts in the world in parallel. For example, I remind you all the Astana process for the Syria crisis and justifying external actions with interests at stake. For example, the cases of Georgia and Ukraine. Overall and briefly, gathering with the major Russia policy trends since 2000, since President Putin came to power, we can find different cycles of Russia position closer to the West sometime. And I remind you the fight, the joining fight with the United States after the 9/11, the fight on international terrorism, and sometimes closer to China, the East. And now also the kind of new normal, this different kind of tension with the West nowadays. Aligning also with the stronger political leadership inside and perhaps a long-lasting one, with a great regional influence, sometimes of more cooperation in some borders and more tension, especially the Western ones sometimes too, trying to avoid, of course, the international isolation due to the present state of affairs of tension with the West, especially, namely after the cases as Skripal case, the Ukraine annexation, the alleged meddling in some elections, and so on. and also getting along this path, moving for the East with an even closer relation with China. Even though they are economically asymmetrically partners, they are still strategical partners. Since the United States seems more concerned with its internal politics, President Macron, in his latest speech at the latest Security Conference of Munich, presented the Doctrine Macron, where in his approach towards a predictable Russia, it is forged and intending to forge a new kind of relations with Russia and engaging with a more constructive relationship, appealing to that one more European side of the Kremlin. And also turning or trying to turn Russia into a security partner of Europe, creating the conditions for a collective Europe security and stability, forging this new European security architecture. And also making Europe less dependent of the United States and strategically more autonomous. And I quote, "The strategy with Russia needs to rest on the opportunity to have a dialogue. We need to be more demanding, but we need a strategy dialogue." This proposal has found some criticism, of course, but since Russia's relationship with the West seems to be at its worst time ever, with a lot of mistrust and accusations for both sides, and being Russia an important part of course, the international community, the present state of affairs needs to find common ground in order to achieve a conciliated world. So it seems that someone needs to take the first step. And if I may, trying to quote this morning keynote speech of Professor Sakwe, perhaps the old and good-fashioned diplomacy is the solution. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Sonia, also for keeping up with the timing, which is perfect. So we have a set of papers here that have brought us different perspectives on this region, a bigger focus on Turkey, but also on Russia and Central Asian countries. I do have at least for now 2 questions. Andrew Leung, I'm sorry, you were the first one to try to pose a question.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I would ask you to be very concise, okay?
Yes.
Very quick.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay. My question is addressed to the first speaker on Turkey. Now, as the, to what extent would the geopolitics in Central Asia be affected by the changing dynamics in the Middle East? Because the United States is trying to isolate Iran and is changing the geopolitics in the Middle East. So my question is that to what extent Turkey is responding to these implications of the changing dynamics in the Middle East as they affect Turkey's strategy. So what's Turkey's strategy to this challenge?
Okay, for what I've understood, you've directed your question to the Aala Gol. Yes, she has just told me previously that she has some problem with her internet connection. But she's willing, I can give you privately, can give you her email contacts if she wants to discuss this directly with her.
Well, in which case I better ask the question of the last speaker then on Russia.
Okay.
Yes. Well, thank you for highlighting this predictability. My question to you is that to what extent Russia would be able to respond to certain countries in Europe who are very worried about the possibility of Russian expansion. For example, recovering some of its past influence. I'm talking about countries like Poland and, of course, the Baltic states, and they are turning towards the United States. And, of course, the United States is trying to leverage this to push back against Russia. So what would Russia's strategy be in that context? And how does this predictability doctrine apply in this kind of scenario?
Thank you. Can I answer?
No,
Okay.
if you don't mind, I would just ask Andrew Kiniakin, who has also put some questions here on the chat regarding Brindusa's presentation. Andre, are you there? Andre Kiniakin?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
Andre. Not Andrew. Andre?
Okay.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I don't think he's here yet. So, well, basically he asked what, if you consider that the community of independent states is already something like of a moribund integration, regional organization in terms of economic, but also in terms of importance in the region as such, as an organization. So I would give the floor to Brindusa and Sonia for answering these two questions, and then I will open up if there are any more questions. Thank you. So Brindusa.
Okay, thank you very much. Certainly the Commonwealth of Independent States didn't start up as a strong regional integration project. So they had a lot of problems since the beginning. There were a lot of exceptions. The framework were not established as it should be. So this is a desperate attempt of Russia, if you will, to keep its influence over the former Soviet republics. Today, the Commonwealth of Independent States, it is indeed on its deathbed, I would say, although it's the only organization that it's still standing since the early 90s, since the dissolution of the Soviet Union. It is kept artificially alive, as our colleague underlined in one of its questions. It was mismanaged, and the fact that other regional organizations emerged, such as the Eurasian Customs Union, which later in 2015 transformed into the Eurasian Economic Union, this new project that we have from Russia's side in terms of economic integration, made this community of independent states to lose its direction and its importance in the area. Sure, this organization as a whole, with its new free trade area agreement, which is in force since 2011 for some countries and since 2012 for the others, made it look weak, made it look as a desperate attempt to come together into forming a sole economic voice, so to speak, for the former Soviet republics. So to answer Andrei's questions, yes, I think this organization possibly is living its last days. I don't see any possibilities to revive it or to make it important on the international economic arena. We don't have plans for a customs union or for a common economic space, although in the past such talks were advanced. But now in the area, the main focus is the Eurasian Economic Union, led by Russia. And this new organization is trying to accaparate, to catch all the former Soviet entities, and to bring it once again under the Russian influence, to keep them, not them per se, but to keep actually the European Union to have a strong foot in the eastern neighborhood. Because the European Union in the latest years, through the Eastern Partnership and through the deep free trade area agreements, tried to pursue this former Soviet states to come to closer ties to the EU. To broaden their interests and their visions, to embrace the European values which are championed by the European Union, with promises from economic trade agreements, from liberalization to better cooperation, especially in the fields of research and innovation and academia.
Okay, thank you. Now, Sonia, could you?
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for your question. It's a very good and pertinent question. From my point of view, I think that we have to cope here with three kind of sensibilities or dimensions, if you want. The first is the Russia perspective. As Professor Sako told us this morning, the problem is that in the 90s or after the 90s, Russia came with a misperception towards the West, especially after this kind of mistrust, and didn't want to give up, as Professor Sako told us this morning, that, and I think he's right, didn't want to give up from his interest, his influence in the post-Soviet space. So that's the first dimension we have to take account in your question. The second one is the European one, or if you want, the European Union one, which means that European Union seems like a global actor, but nowadays facing major cycles of crisis. As you know, it was the financial crisis, the migration crisis, the Brexit crisis, and always lacking some kind of common ground voice to cope with all the different challenges, namely his relationship with the close neighbor, Russia. So I guess that from the bilateral point of view of some countries, European countries, it is normal, and when you're close border with Russia, it is normal to be concerned. But on the other hand, as I told you, the Russian stage of affairs is predictable. It's going to continue for at least a couple of more decades, I guess, and I believe that's why I propose this reflection today. So in that case, I think it's perhaps the European side that needs to change and try to come up with a kind of approach, a new approach to this possible future of relationship. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Sonia. We are on top of our final moment. We have to end this session here. I really want to thank all the speakers and all the participants who are here watching and discussing these topics with us. Thank you so much for being here. I remind you that you have a whole 2 other days in full speed to attend the IEPAS conference. Once again, thank you all to the organizers, to the speakers, and I wish you all to keep safe, keep in good health, and let's keep in touch. And you all keep in touch. This personal part of conferences and the personal networking part, it's lacking here, but please keep in touch with each other. Don't hesitate to contact each other if you have further questions, and discuss these topics directly between the speakers and the participants. Thank you so much to you all. Thank you, Luis, for having me here, and Dag Haman also. Thank you so much. Bye bye. See you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye bye.